Okay, cool. The recording has started. So now let's continue. So as we have seen already, we have started with Docker Compose up -d, the network created, all the required volumes got created, and we have the container started as well. So now, example, let's say I'll do Docker PS again just to check the status of the containers. Okay, so we see that all the containers are running. It gives you the status when it was created, when it was started, every status you would get there. So now, before we go into the script, let me quickly show, okay. So now if you go to the browser and if you hit just localhost, you can see the Bahmni's landing page. And if you hit on clinical service, you'll see the Bahmni's login screen. And let me log in with the default credentials that it ships with. Yeah, we have Bahmni up and running now. So yeah, so from here, all the rest of the flows of Bahmni would continue. We have all the registrations and everything configured. So this are the specific configurations of the Bahmni Lite version. This is the default configuration. So in tomorrow's session, we'll show you how you can override some of these configurations. So now let's move back again to the terminal. We'll see the script. So now we have started our containers with Docker Compose commands. So you can very well use the Docker Compose commands for people who are new to Docker Compose or say, okay, these commands are, bit difficult for us. We have a script there. So that script is available for both Bahmni Lite as well as Bahmni Standard. So I'll quickly show here. Now I just say the script is run-bahmni.sh. I'll say, okay, maybe I click cursor to the top of the screen. Yes. Now I'll say /run-bahmni.sh. So once you run the script, it will check for the Docker version, Docker Compose versions, and yeah, running Bahmni Lite, and it will give you around 10 options. So for example, let's say it allows you to start Bahmni services, stop Bahmni services, show the logs of OpenMRS container, or if you want to see the logs of a service, you can do so. You can SSH into a container. You can, start Bahmni Analytics, Martin Metabase. You can pull the latest images from Docker Hub. Or if you want to, let's say, I want to start a fresh environment again, reset and erase all volumes from Docker. You can restart a specific service. You can view the status. So first, let's go with the status option. I'll say option as 0 and enter. So it will just give you what are all the containers that has been started and what's the image that is using. So as you can see the image, for example, everything, it's the latest image that's using. And now let's say, for example, I say I want to start the services again. So one good option of Docker is that if the service is already running, it will not restart or something. It will just check the status. If the container status shows as running, it will just simply say yes and terminate. It will not restart the container or so. For example, I'll now give option 1. And yeah, this says all the containers are already running, so nothing to do. It just exits. The script just exits. So now let's say, for example, I want to restart a service. I'll just do run-bahmni.sh, and I'll say option 9. I want to restart a service. So it is asking for the name of the service. So service names are listed here. You can pick one from the list. For example, let's say I want to restart my proxy container. I'll just say proxy. So it will just say, we can see that now the Docker container is getting restarted. And it will ask you, do you want to see the service logs? If you give an yes, it will start showing up the logs for you on the terminal. You can terminate this by hitting Control-C again. Yeah. So these are the basics. So before I move on to the next topics, any questions? Do you want me to repeat any steps?
Hello.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
Mohsin. Yeah.
Hi, this side, Mr. Okay. I just want to know that this run Bahmni shell file, is it means user can use it for the given options or for installing Bahmni also. Suppose if someone don't want to use Docker and use this shell file to install.
So Mohsin, actually this script runs based on Docker. So this is, the script is specifically for Docker Compose based setup. Now, for example, if you say you don't want to use any Docker Compose commands, you can just clone the repo, cd into the Bahmni Lite folder, and just say run bahmni.sh, and you can say option 1 to start the services, and it will start the service.
It means it will install everything on the host machine.
Yes, it will take a pull of all the containers. It will create all the containers, and you can just hit localhost again to see the services.
Okay, okay. Thank you. It's clear.
Okay, cool. So now let me go ahead. So now as we can see by default, as we can see in the documentation, let me go back here. So as the documentation states, by default, we have the EMR profile which is running, which is a minimal set that allows you to quickly start Bahmni. Let's say, for example, for demoing purposes, you want to just run the EMR. By default, we ship with the EMR profile. Now, let's say you want to add a profile. So Bahmni Lite comes with creator, right? Now, let's say you want to bring up creator. So if you want to bring up creator, uh, you head to the .env file that's there in the Bahmni Lite folder. So this .env file is where all the environment specifics would be configured. For example, be it the compose profile, the host, passwords, everything that are specific to the environments would be configured here. So now we have the first option, which is compose profile. Now by default we have the EMR profiles running. Now let's say I want to add in a new application. I want to bring up creator. So what I'll just say I want to add creator. I'll say C or A T, or I'll add one more profile. And after editing the .env file, I'll go back again. I'll say either I can use Docker compose command, but this time I'll use run-bahmni.sh script. I'll say run-bahmni.sh, and I want to start the Bahmni services. So now if I hit start Bahmni services, what Docker compose will do is it will check what are all the profiles enabled. So now we have enabled a new profile, and it will create the containers that are missing. So I'll say start Bahmni services. So now as we can see, these are the containers that are missing. So these containers are already running, so it doesn't do anything for it. Now we just need these containers to be started. Creator Nginx, PHP, Atom Feed, DBs. So it's starting the containers. So now even if you do a fresh installation, you can follow the same step. You can just say /run-bahmni.sh, and you'll say start Bahmni services. It will start the EMR profile. Nothing needs to be done. Awesome. So now the container is started. It will take a moment to boot up. Creator would take a moment. So creator has a restriction. It cannot be hosted on a subpath. It needs a subdomain for it, as like Voodoo that we had already in public standard. So for now, we have exposed creator on localhost port number 444, that you can see it in the Docker compose file as well. Now, for example, let's say I'll go to docker compose.yaml, and I'll say creator nginx. So here we can see there is a port mapping. So we have port 444 mapped to my host machine. So now I'll go to my browser and I'll say localhost 4. Okay. I need to pass it as a HTTPS request. My browser is trying to make a HTTP, so I'll put in HTTPS. Yeah, so since this is a self-signed certificate, it's asking a connection not private error. So I'll give proceed to localhost. Okay, I think Creator is booting up. Let's wait for a moment. Or we can also view the logs. So I'll just say /run-bahmni.sh, and I say I want to view the logs of a service. I'll just say option 4, enter, and say I want to see the logs of creator PHP. Just copy this, paste it here, enter. Yeah, so now it says ready to handle connections. I'll refresh my browser again. Yeah, so now we have creator up and running. Awesome. Okay. So let me quickly register a patient in Bahmni, and we can see that being synced with creator. So I'll go into the registration module, and I'll say create new. Yes, I will give some random mobile number. Okay. Yeah, so now the patient is saved. I'll start a visit. So for now, I'll not enter any basic details. I'll just say 7 go to dashboard. Yeah, so now we are in the patient dashboard of Bahmni. So now let me go back to creator and login here. So creator also has a default username and password created. So I'll go here, superman@bahmni.org. This is the default one, and password would be creator123. Okay, then it would be creator123, I believe. Yes. So now we are logged in, and now we can see we have the customer sync here. So we created a patient in Bahmni, and that patient got synced. So this happens via Atom Feed. So currently, as part of Bahmni Lite, we have the patient details being synced. We have not yet achieved the items or the estimates invoice being synced. That is an upcoming feature. Okay.
Mohan, there's a question from Daniel. Would you like to answer it?
Yes, I'll answer it. So, Daniel, for your question, the kind of integration used between Creator and Bahmni EMR is Atom Feed that we have been using already. For example, that we have been using already to sync OpenLS. The same logic has been implemented here. EMR to Creator sync happens with the help of Atom Feeds. Basically, we have a separate service running. For example, now if we go back here, I'll say maybe I'll now use Docker PS, or you can also use Docker Compose PS, which would give you the services related to which are started by our Docker Compose file. So now one such service here is Creator Atom Feed. So this service is responsible for the linking. So Creator is written based on Python. So from Bahmni EMR, we have this Creator Atom Feed service, which reads data from Bahmni EMR and syncs with Creator. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, awesome. Now we have Creator also up and running. Now, let's say I want to start the entire Bahmni Lite profile. So what I'll do, I'll go back to my .env file. I'll just say instead of EMR Creator, different profiles. I'll just say Bahmni-Lite, and I'll come back here again, and I'll say /run-bahmni.sh, and I'll say start services. So now, as we can see, most of the containers are already in the running state. The only container that's missed is the reports. So now reports is also created. Now let me go back again. So just to, if you want to see what are the containers running, you can say Docker Compose PS, or you can use the run Bahmni script as well. Yeah, so these are all the services being listed. So now as we can see, these are the two containers that got added because all other profiles has been started already. So now, for example, in your implementations, you may feel a typical scenario that, okay, first let's start with EMR, and sometime later you may feel that, okay, I want to start Creator now. You can just go there, change the profile, start Creator. That's it. Now, I wanted the entire Bahmni Lite to be up and running. So this is how we would do. For example, now let's say, okay, I don't want to start the individual profiles. I just want the entire Bahmni Lite piece to be up and running. Simple. You clone the repo, change the .env file to Bahmni Lite, and then just use the run Bahmni script to start the containers, and you will have both Bahmni EMR and Creator being loaded. Okay. So before I move on to the next topic, do we have any questions?
Hello, Mohan.
Yep.
This side, Moses. Okay, I just want to know that earlier, in the earlier versions of Bahmni, I think Java was used for creating this atom feed service. So
Yeah.
this creator is in Java, or I think uh, Python, PHP. I'm not getting this.
Yeah. So actually, Creator is written in PHP, whereas our Bahmni components are written in Java. So Creator is running based out of PHP, and we have a front end front-end by the Nginx, based out of Nginx. So this is how the creator's architecture would be. All the backend communication happens with PHP, and the database is MySQL for it. Now, in order to establish the communication, we have brought in a new service, Creator Atom Feed, which is written in Java.
Okay.
So this acts like a mediatory between the EMR and the creator. This acts the mediatory, which syncs data from EMR to creator.
Thank you.
Okay. So I see a question on Q&A. Can I switch from Bahmni Lite to Bahmni Standard or vice versa without disturbing the backend databases? Data right now, that's not possible. That's being, these are two different set of services. There would be some mismatch around the configurations, but soon we'll have a path where you can take the backup of databases from Bahmni Lite and you can run it with Bahmni Standard. Yeah, hope that answers. Is that clear? Do you need any more clarifications?
Hello.
Okay.
Mohsin is trying to say something. We cannot hear you, Mohsin.
Hello. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What is the minimum configuration for the system for Bahmni Lite?
Yeah, so for Bahmni Lite, we would say, I mean, as specified in the documentation, a minimum of 8 GB RAM would be required. And then disk space, it depends. A bare minimum, if you are running on cloud, a bare minimum can be a 30 GB machine, should be enough to start. Then as your clinic or hospital implementation scales up, depending on the documents or the data you store, you need to extend your storage. But from a memory perspective, the minimum requirements is 8 GB.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so now moving on, I'll walk you through some of the other configurations that are possible and the Docker Compose file. So now we have seen how to start Bahmni Lite. Now next question would be, how do you start a specific version of Bahmni Lite? So now we are expecting Bahmni Lite release 1.0.0 to happen very soon, probably this week or next week. So once the release is made, you can run your images with a specific tagged image. Right now, as you can see, all the images that are running points to latest, which would be the mainstream images. So these are the images that are pushed from our daily development cycle. So these are latest images. These may not be stable all the times. Yeah. So now the next question would be, how do you pin a specific version of an image? So there are two options. Once a release is made, we'll have a separate branch in the repository itself. So for now, we have made a Bahmni Lite beta release. Now let me switch to that branch. I'll say git checkout to 1.0.0-beta. Okay, I have some changes. So it's saying, so I'll say git switch. Okay, git stash. I'll say git switch to 1.0.0 beta. So now whenever as a new release comes in, we'll start creating branches like this here. So this branch will specify, instead of using latest images, this will have a specific tagged images. So now for you to show that, now we can see how do you see the image tags that are running it. It's all written in the .env file. For example, the config image tag is running with this build 1.0.0-229th build, and OpenMRS image is running with this one. So we would recommend in a production system. So right now you can use master branches for local development testing. If you want to take the latest images, just try it out. You can use the master branch, but for production, we would recommend using a tagged images. So you can start using it with, like, let's say a tagged branch. Now you may feel like, there might be a specific feature, or let's say you want to use a specific image tag for a single service. In that case, what you can do is, let me go back to master branch again, and I'll have my changes applied again. Yeah. So now if we go here, now let's say let's say, okay, I want to use a specific image tag for, let's say, Bahmni web image. Now, how do you figure that out? In the env file, there will be a key called as Bahmni. Whatever service we have will have a key called as image tag. So now if I scroll through this here, we can see Bahmni web image tag. So this is pointing to latest for now. Now let's say I want to pick a specific tag. First, you need to find out the tag. Let's say I'll go here. I'll go to Docker Hub. So all our Bahmni images are hosted on Docker Hub. You can use any version that you like. So I'll go here. I'll search for Bahmni/Bahmni-web. And I'll go here, and we can see this is the latest image. So this is last pushed 4 hours ago, and we have different images for every build. Now let's say, okay, I want to, let's say, use this 230 image tag. So now what I'll do is I'll just go back here, go back to my .env file. I'll say instead of latest, I'll say 1.0.0-230. I want to use this build explicitly. Now, if I change this and I'll go back here, and let's say I use the same run-bahmni script, I'll say run-bahmni.sh, and I say start Bahmni services. So what it will do now, it could not find that image in my local. So Docker has automatically started pulling the image. So now we can see this image is being pulled. Yeah, so it's trying to pull the layers. Yeah, so now we can see it didn't touch any other service or container. It just recreated the Bahmni web since its configuration alone has changed. Yeah, so it's restarted. Now, if we check the status of the containers again, I'd say 0. And now we can see that Bahmni web is actually running with the image tag that we specified 1.0.0-230. So you don't need to worry about how do I get the latest build, how do I pull the images. So Docker takes care of all these things. So this would be the case when you, for example, let's say in a production scenario, you would have deployed the environment, and let's say you want to upgrade a specific service. So it's simple as that. You go to the env file, check your image tag, and just update it up. So now after updating, if you do Docker Compose app, or even if you say start Bahmni, it will just automatically download the latest image and then run it off for you. Okay. So this would be helpful when you want to do production level upgrades. For example, let's say there was a patch release for this Bahmni web image. A quick patch has been released. So instead of waiting for the entire product release to happen, you can just go ahead, go to the .env file, mutate this tag alone, and then you can have the latest or the fixed image up and running. Okay. So any other things anybody wants? Any questions? So I see a question in Q&A. Does Creator and Odoo have the same functionality? Yeah, for Besa, to answer your question, right now, Creator is a lightweight billing solution. It does not have that much inventory management and stuff. So we are targeting Creator as a lightweight billing solution that can be used across clinics or small hospitals. Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Hello, Mohan.
Yeah.
I have a question on the Bahmni reports. In the earlier versions, the Bahmni reports used to stop or prevent due to the HTTPS problem. So in this Bahmni Lite, suppose I want to restart this Bahmni container periodically. Is there any way that it can be started?
You want to automate the restart process?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not directly possible out of the box from Bahmni, but you can very well just, write a cron tab in your host machine saying that, okay, you want this command. For example, now I'll show you quickly. Like as your case, I want to restart reports alone, right? Now I'll go here to my terminal and I'll say docker compose restart start reports. So if I say, the container will be automatically restarted. So if you want this to happen automatically in a periodic manner, create a cron, put this in a cron tab. Then that command would execute on the schedule that you specify.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I think we have a question from Thomas. Is there an equivalent of Docker image versions of the components and the RVMs that are used in Bahmni? So for the Docker images specifically, this we are targeting as a new fresh release, but soon for Bahmni standard, we will have an upgrade path where all the implementers can upgrade from the latest Bahmni version, which is 0.93 released version, to Docker. We are planning that. You can soon expect that to happen. We'll give you a documentation where you can follow to get all the Docker images, get your data migrated from CentOS and deploy it using Docker. That's in our plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right now, this Bahmni Lite is a fresh release. This doesn't, guarantee backward compatibility, but for Bahmni standard, we'll for sure have a path to upgrade. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it we had from our side that we wanted to cover. Any more questions do we have? Yeah. Okay, cool. Seems like none. So I think in Q&A we have got one question around how do we add self-signed SSL certificates by Vijay. So we'll try to prioritize this as part of the session. We know that some of the implementations has been facing issues around setting up SSL certificates. Maybe we'll have it as part of day 3. So do we have any other topics apart from our training schedule like this to be covered? You might have faced some issues with the previous installations, and if you want to know how is it simplified with Docker, do we have any such topic? Okay, seems none. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thanks all. Thanks for your time. So we would like to send out a feedback form. Please spend your time to help us with the feedback so that we can improve our training content. So I am pasting the link in chat. Please fill out the feedback form. So this training content as well as the recorded video would be uploaded on YouTube soon, as well as we'll share out this training content with email as well. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.